Hello and welcome. My name is Thomas Greenwood. Today I'm going to be talking about how social media platforms are a form of sorcery. This is going to be a video about the sinister capacities of social media. I will explain that social media is a type of sorcery and, in my opinion, how it affects us and why. What is magic? As Jesper Sorensen's definition of magic most appropriately says, magic is about changing the state or essence of persons, objects, acts and events through certain special and non-trivial kinds of action with opaque, casual meditation. The matrix is what is behind reality. It's sort of the code and the mathematics that holds it up. If you can access the matrix, the code that underlines our reality, and you have knowledge and wisdom to understand how to influence and manipulate those codes, then you can bring about change in reality, and that's going to be called magic. Change can occur with or without permission. There are different types of magic. There's white magic, grey magic, black magic, red magic. At the end of the day, it's all about bringing about change. Black magic usually is when you go and want change to occur for your will. What you will, you make happen through a series of actions. White magic's very much different. It's like prayer or meditation. It's when you ask permission for the greater consciousness to bring about change. Because the world has a natural way about it, and if you start to interfere in the natural course of events, you can get karma. You sort of jilt life out of its normal routine, out of its process, and then life has to realign itself. And when it realigns itself, there can be blowback and comeback on you because you're the one that put it out of line. However, when you do meditation and prayer, you're asking the consciousness to appease a situation, or you put forward a petition asking for change to occur, but you're doing it with permission and with alignment of greater energies and greater consciousness. So therefore you're not affecting anything. Those things will change in accordance to the wishes and whims of God. Because most people don't understand the matrix, they don't believe it exists, they think it's just a film, or they think it's a load of conspiracy theorists running around losing their heads. When those changes actually do happen, because it's so outside of their perception of reality, they therefore can't really understand how it's happened, and therefore they coin the situation magic or magical. In the past, science and magic were related. It was only up until the 16th, 17th century that magic or mysticism and science separated. This was mainly due to the Catholic Church interfering and meddling in science. The Catholic Church wanted science to prove its own ideas about the world. One of those ideas was that the Earth was the centre of the universe and all the planets and the sun went around it, to show the importance of God's creation. And when scientists didn't agree with the perceptions and the ideas of the Catholic Church, they got into huge amounts of trouble, like Galileo, who was called in front of a council. Those original scientists were called alchemists, and they had a scientific nature and a spiritual or mystical nature, which they could combine together. Whether or not you believe that alchemy is true, it provided the bedrock of modern day science. Most of the great inventions and great understandings about science actually came from the alchemists. It's very difficult to sideline the alchemists as a group of people that aren't very important, because they in fact played a very important role in the definition and formulation of science as we know it today. And science is something which is very mystical. If you look at physics, for instance, physics has a very mystical nature about it. If you split an atom in two and you send those atoms off into two different directions, somehow they've got a telepathic connection. So if one half of the atom goes a million miles in one direction and the other half of the atom goes a million miles in the other direction, if you stop one of those atoms, what will happen is the other atom will stop at the same time. I put forward the idea that the cell phone is a type of magical instrument. And I think that social media is a type of magic as well, because it can wield spells over us. We become addicted to Facebook. It can make us change and do things. If you look at the idea of a magician, the people think that magicians somehow have some sort of power over humans. They can make a human change his or her will to the will of the magician. And if you look at Facebook and other social media, it seems that that technology does exactly to us what we blamed great sorcerers in the past or in fantasy books of being capable of doing at the same time. In effect, if social media is the product of an engineer or an architect, that engineer or architect becomes the sorcerer. Social media and the internet have codes within them, much like spells. And within those codes, there are a lot of other hidden intentions. For instance, Facebook is seen as a platform to communicate with other people. But if you look at the algorithms and the codes within Facebook, it's actually there to make you addicted to the platform so that when ads are shown to you, Facebook can get money from those ads. The platforms that we use have codes embedded within them that makes us addicted to the platform. The reason they want us to be addicted to the platform is because it can then make social media money through advertising. Doing this also changes our perception of the world. The advertising is sending us data that influences our ideas very subtly. And in fact, Facebook has been accused of helping Trump win the elections, and it's also been accused of helping the vote to win Brexit. What is an algorithm? An algorithm is a set of steps that completes a job. It doesn't necessarily have to be embedded within a computer. It can also be embedded in our brain. Our brain is a biological computer. These algorithms are very worrying because the algorithms have an intention. The person who's made the algorithms has made the algorithm to perform a job, and that job is to be performed on us. And that job with, for instance, Facebook and social media is to keep us addicted to the social media. And the reason they want us to become and keep addicted to those social media is to make money. That's why they need to have us addicted to Facebook, to make us spend as much time as we have on the application or on the platform. And in that way, we see more ads, and therefore Facebook and social media get paid more money for ad time. Therefore, there's a very strong incentive to make those platforms addictive, because the more addictive they are, the more time we spend on the social platform and the more money those companies make from adverts. The brain is a biological computer. You can program it, you can unprogram it, it has memory. You have eyes, which could act as a screen. You have a mouse, which is a hand. The only thing the computer doesn't have is legs, which we have. In effect, our physical body is a robot, and that robot is controlled by the brain, which is a computer. The soul and the spirit then tell the brain what to do, and the brain goes and tells the body what to do. The brain becomes an interface between the spiritual world and the physical world. The body is an avatar suit whereby the spirit is able to perform functions and feel and to experience physicality. There's a school or university called Stanford Persuasive Lab Technologies, and what they do is they try to understand how the brain works. The brain has a lot of back doors in it which can be hacked. If you understand how the brain works, then it's much more easy to hack the brain. And in fact, what a magician does when a magician does a card trick, a lot of those magicians also, they understand how the brain works and how the back door works. They can confuse you or distract you in order to perform the magic. And you think that magic has been created, but in fact you've just been manipulated because they understand how your brain works. They've hacked your brain, and then they make you believe that something has happened when in fact it has not. That's the foolery involved within magic, or the magic that you see on television. Most people in Silicon Valley know how the mind works. It's their job to know things. They need to create applications that sell, and if they want it to sell, then it has to be enjoyed by humans, or it has to be needed by humans. And therefore you have to understand what a human enjoys or what a human needs. And part of that is to understand vulnerabilities of humans as well. And the companies, knowing what the vulnerabilities are, use techniques to exacerbate those vulnerabilities. And those vulnerabilities, once hacked, make us addicted to social media. And I'll explain how. The algorithm is a sophisticated model to understand your psychological behavior. If you're a young person, you're going to have a very different lifestyle to an older person. If you're a vegetarian, you're going to have a very different lifestyle to someone that enjoys meat. And the algorithm can observe that if you go to those places, then you're most likely to go to those places. So for instance, a vegetarian is going to eat in a lot of healthy places. They will probably do yoga, they'll probably do sport, they'll probably go to a certain type of location for holidays. A meat eater is going to have a very different lifestyle. Also, someone that enjoys drinking is going to go to a lot of pubs and a lot of bars and discotheques. And the algorithm builds up a profile so that it understands your likes and dislikes. Then, when it has that, it then feeds you advertising that it thinks that you'll like. So if you are a vegetarian, it will send you, for instance, restaurants that are vegetarian. If you enjoy alcohol, it will send you adverts, for instance, of different types of alcohol or beers that perhaps you might enjoy. Doing this, it then manages to get the correct type of advert for you. But it needs you to stay on social media long enough so that it can send you a lot of adverts, which is where it makes its money. The more time that you're on social media, the more time you have to watch adverts. And the more adverts that you watch or that you click on, the company has to pay. The advert company has to pay social media. Social media also works on feedback loops. Feedback loops are the things that make you addicted. They're the things that keep you on Facebook. The more information that's uploaded to social media, the better the profile that those social media companies have on you. So basically, you are giving information to them to help them find adverts and to sell your data, because selling your data to other companies, for instance, Cambridge Analytica, is big money. So the more information they have about you, then that is money. And also by sending specific adverts to you and you clicking on them or looking at them is also getting them money. So it's in their best interests that they know who you are and that you spend as much time on them as possible. Feedback loops occur whenever the platform that you're on is watching you and you're interacting with it. Televisions or billboards or books can't generate feedback loops. Only something like social media can. You upload a picture of your food, or you upload a picture of you on holiday, and you put it onto Facebook and you put it into the public domain. You then wait for people to click a like or a dislike. If they dislike it, then that's the harsh reality of you putting things up on Facebook. But what you generally want is people to like what you've done. When they like what you've done, you get a dopamine rush. When you get the dopamine rush, in order to get another dopamine rush, you then put more things up onto social media, and then you get more likes. As you're adding things up onto social media can see what you're liking and what you're disliking. And then social media can send you information that have similarities to the likes that you've given. For instance, if you've gone and given likes to vegetarian restaurants, it will probably give you other vegetarian restaurants to look at. You then go to those vegetarian restaurants and then you like it. Other people see that you've liked it. They then go, they then like it. Other people then, because they're receiving likes, put more information up about certain places that they're going to, and they get more likes. And that's how the feedback loop works. You're using other people's likes and dislikes in the public domain in order to give you a dopamine rush, in order to upload more data, in order to get more feedback that then gives the algorithms who are observing you more information about you, that then give you information that they think that you're going to like. And that has subtle influences on you. This is called a social validation feedback loop. I put a picture on social media, I then see who likes it. If they like it, I then put more pictures back up on social media. And this gives me a full sense of who likes me and who doesn't. It gives me a full sense of reality, which is one of the objectives of social media. It's to change the perception, the reality that we know into, and make us addicted to a more digital reality. The consequences of feedback loops. I'm going to read you a quote which is very interesting. If we become governed by the algorithms that are supposed to model who we are in our behavior, then we become essentially agents of the algorithm. The algorithm determines who we end up becoming. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The algorithms are programmed to look at us and observe us. We give the algorithms data. The algorithms then give us information back. That influences us in a particular way, because without that information, we wouldn't have been influenced. And it's not normal to receive the types of information that we get. The world works more in serendipity and coincidence, or word of mouth. When we get information, it's done naturally. It's not done by a robot that's targeting us and sending us particular types of information. And this subtly changes our world, because on the information that we're sent by the blind robot algorithms then influences us, and then we then reply to that which the algorithm replies to, and then we reply. So our lives are having a conversation with this dead robot, with this algorithm, a dead intelligence, a blind intelligence. And all this is called cybernetics. Let me read you something. When you throw a ball into a basket and fail, the next time you'll try, you'll be more accurate. And you'll be even more accurate each time that you keep trying. And you'll be more accurate each time you keep trying. Because there is a loop in your feedback. Your results are communicating to you how you can improve. So you'll start to regulate your output to obtain the expected results. This is called control, and that is cybernetics. Feedback loops are a form of cybernetics. Cybernetics is neither good nor bad, and it has different faces. The first one, to control us and to bring us into a false reality using feedback loops. The second has a potential as a multifaceted pathway for life-sustaining connections, resonance, healing, requisite variations, and transformative change. There are different types of realities. I think that we are currently in the third type of reality. In the old reality, it was a natural reality. It was where humans had a relationship and could communicate with the earth. They had a psychic ability, I think, to be able to talk, or at least to be able to somehow on some level communicate with plants. I think that something fractured that union between humans and nature. There was some sort of psychic trauma that triggered a split in the brain that I think that humans were very psychic at one point, very intuitive. And then because of something that happened, it seems about 6,000 years ago, they had to start thinking. They had to think about time. They had to think about tomorrow instead of seeing time as not something important. They also had to develop technology, because if you're living within nature and nature isn't giving you those things that you need, then you obviously need to change your lifestyle through adaptation in order to survive. And if part of that survival requires the brain to change and an intellect to develop, and the intellect seems to have developed without the psychic ability. In fact, the intellect seems to sometimes suppress the psychic ability and the intuitive abilities that allow us to have this relationship and to commune with nature. And I think that technology is the expression of that fractured mind. I think that what we have today is a very long journey from 6,000 years ago, when technology seems to have started. Before the fracturing, or in my opinion, before the fracturing of the mind occurred, there doesn't seem to be any type of religion. There seems to be some sort of shamanism. And shamanism is a direct contact with the elements, with nature and with energies. After this fracturing of the mind, it seems as if there was some sort of existential suffering, and religion was developed in order to cope. However, religion doesn't seem to have done such a great job. With the development of religions, for instance, especially the Abrahamic religions, there seems to be an awful lot of war and suffering, and those religions seem to have perpetrated or perpetuated more suffering to more people, like some sort of virus or contagious bacteria. The crusades, the conquests, the invasions, these things seem to have developed and been a part of the religious experience. I think people have given up a lot on religion, especially in the West. The churches are now empty and people are looking for other areas in order to find some sort of spirituality. There's a large following of Buddhism and Hinduism by Western people that have not got their spiritual culture. It was destroyed with the invasion of the Romans, and which then brought Christianity along and destroyed the old cultures, which in those cultures, although there was a fractured mind, there was still a strong resonance with nature. And so because religion seems to have failed, technology seems to be the new religion. Technology seems to promise us hope, happiness, pleasure. Technology has given us pleasure and ease of life. The car, technology has liberated women. We think it's a progressive philosophy and a change of mind that has liberated the women. But in my view, I think that the liberation of women has come with technology. If a woman's job has been in the household, then the technology that has been developed to do household chores has freed the woman up. And it's also freed individuals up, because instead of going through the laborious task of cleaning the house, we now have machines that can do that. When you take the children to school, you don't need to walk them to school, you can drive them to school. So technology has managed to give people more time, and with that time they can then go to work and university and get educations. Technology sort of proved itself therefore as the future, as something that we should believe in, that's going to help humanity more and more and more and more. However, the social media practices don't offer us the deep needed satisfaction that really spirituality, meditation and good philosophies give us. The problem with real happiness is that real happiness doesn't really exist. It's more of a harmony, it's more of being in balance with the world. Technology has come as the new liberator, and it's promising us all sorts of things. In the future, it's promising us robots, it's promising us to clean our houses, to buy all the food. It's basically on the horizon. It's saying, if you believe in me, I will take all the problems of life away from you and you will be absolutely free. And I will give you pleasure as well at the same time. Technology has promised to cure the human existential problem. Whether it does or not is a different matter, but it does make life more easy, but I don't think that it's making life more happy. If you look at social media, you have children committing suicide, and technology like the smartphone makes life more complicated. Technology also distracts you an awful lot, so you can't settle down. It's almost as if technology is creating a different world for us to live in, which is not the world that we live in now. If you can make the argument that the first period of living was living with nature, that's the first reality. I can't think of anything more pure than that. If it's true that there was some sort of psychic disharmony that brought people out of the communication with nature, then that's sort of where we're living in at the moment. It's like a false reality, or it's like a reality that doesn't allow us to have the full real experience of living and reality. Our minds have been convoluted with religion, which have changed the perception of the world. Religions have an agenda, and they want humans to be part of that agenda. That agenda is sold as a form of living to humans that will make them more happy and in harmony with life. But whether or not those beliefs and ideas that they're giving and selling to humans actually do that is a different question. Technology is doing something completely different. It's building a different world. It's already a world in itself. It's a cyber world. And we want to enter into this cyber world, but we need to change our brains to do it. Or the cyber world that's been created has a set of rules by the architects, or a personality set up by the architects, which ask us to change the way that we think in order to enter into this cybernetic world or cyber world. For instance, if you want to be on Facebook and Twitter, you really need to have your brain reprogrammed. When you go onto the Facebook and Twitter, it is actually programming your mind. And the children today, they can't focus for long periods of time. If you ask them to read a book or you ask them to analyze and understand something with profundity, they can't do it. They can look at lots of information superficially at the same time, but they can't concentrate on one piece of information for a long period of time, and that stops development. In a sense, if, for instance, Jesus was to recapitulate what Adam had failed to do, then technology is recapitulating what religion has failed to do. It's giving us the answers that religion failed in. I think that religion was also part of the greater plan. I think it was to prepare the mind, or it was to create disharmony or upset or disappointment so that humans would look for the new idea or the second coming or the third coming. Technology is that third coming. If you don't believe in what religion has given you, you're going to be more open and receptive to accepting something which promises to give you something that you believe that you need. In effect, we are witnessing the birth of a cyber world. It's a world that's being created in our world. Technology is creating a false reality. And for us to stay in this false reality, we need to become addicted to it. And so there are various different tools and methods that have been embedded into the codes purposely by the people that have created it. It's not something that's happened accidentally. It's happened on purpose, and it's happened because they need it to happen to generate money. So a false reality is being built onto the reality that we have. In order to sustain that reality, it needs to be addictive. And that's done with punishment and like. If something's good, you get a like, you get a symbol. And magic works a lot on symbols as well. The moment you see a symbol, you're going to get a dopamine rush. A little thumb means a dopamine rush. That's the linking that's created between your brain and the computer via a symbol, or if you like, a sigil. Those are magical things. How can a picture activate chemicals in your brain to make you happy that then make you addicted? That is magical. That is something very odd and very strange. Technology has this mesmeric spell over us, which is embedded into the codes in the algorithms in order to put its claws into us, really, and to create a spell like Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty fell asleep. We're all falling asleep with the spells that are embedded into the codes by those architects in order to keep the advertisers happy and for the platforms, the social media platforms, to generate money. And we are entering into a false cybernetic dreamlike reality. This cyber reality has a very strange relationship with our reality, our physical reality. In the cybernetic reality, in the cyber reality, you can see a picture which is a false copy of a real object. The cyber reality can change something from physical to not physical, maybe metaphysical, back to physical again, like sublimation. The cyber reality, the interaction between our world and the cyber world, has a sublimation-like quality about it, whereby we can look at an object on the computer, which is a cyber reality, and by pressing a button we can turn that object in the computer to a physical object. It takes a couple of days and it arrives at our door. It's called shopping. It's called Amazon shopping. There's a real product in a space. It gets then turned into a product in cyberspace, which isn't really real. It's more of an illusion. And then when we want that product, we can then manifest it physically in our reality by pushing a button. And there's a transfer of energy, which is called money, which goes should go from something physical to something. And then there's a transfer of money, which is electronic, which is cyber as well. The world that we're working in, the reality, the physical reality, is being helped by a cyber reality. So I'm going to talk about changes and manipulation in the social media and the feedback loops. As I said, the algorithms subtly change you as they watch you. And they send changes in your media feed, for instance in Facebook, that are calculated to adjust you slightly for advertisers. Your media feed is having information. You are being targeted by the algorithms in your media feed to change slightly, to be more receptive for advertisers. The moment you click onto the advertising, the advertisers send Facebook money. And by creating addictions for you in Facebook, you're more likely to stay on to the feed longer, and therefore you'll be open to receiving more forms of publicity and advertising, which will create more money. Everyone today is now under the influence of behavior modification. There's surveillance everywhere, which is surveying us. And this causes an effect in us as humans, because it's not natural to have this big eye watching us, big brother constantly breathing down our neck. And it's made people depressed, especially the teenagers. There's much higher rates in suicide. There's more teenagers on drugs, Ritalin, amphetamines, antidepressants, uppers, downers. We're becoming a drug-filled society. And it changes our perception of the world, being sent data all the time, these algorithms sending us data. We don't get a balanced view of the world. In the past, we'd walk in the street and we'd meet people, we'd read the newspapers. There'd be a more balanced view of the world. We'd meet people and friends, and in the past we were more sociable. Now we spend so much time on our telephones and the computers. Our friends, even when we meet our friends, it's on Facebook. And then we're being targeted while we meet our friends by ads which have been specifically modified for us to change our behavior. And the perception that we have of the world is changed. We no longer really understand what the world is or what to think. Is Russia interfering in elections? Is Russia twisting votes? Is every man a paedophile? Is feminism destroying the world? It's difficult to understand where the world is. It's a crazy world. And what I'm saying isn't anything new. In fact, the founders and the president, or the former president of Facebook, they've all clearly stated, they've come out and they've stated that they embed addictive qualities into the platforms in order to get people to stay on the platforms longer.
The unintended consequences of a network when it grows to 1 billion or 2 billion people, and it literally changes your relationship with society, with each other, with it probably interferes with productivity in weird ways. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. If the thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them to really understand it, that thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. And that's going to get you to contribute more content, and that's going to get you, more likes and comments. I mean, it's a social validation feedback loop that it's like it's exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with, because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. And I think that the inventors, creators, and it's me, it's Mark, it's the Kevin Systrom at Instagram, it's all of these people, understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
And this is a type of stealth addiction. The whole matrix at the moment that we're involved in, it's a form of stealth. It's not looking at us in the face, and it's not something that we can look in the face. We can't touch it. It's not tangible. It's occulted. It's dark. It's mystical. It's untouchable. Yet it affects us all the time. It's like the sun rays giving us a suntan. We can't touch it. We can't stop it. They just change us. And we're being hooked into the rewards and punishment scheme of things. So we're being played with the hook. If we get likes, we're being rewarded. If people don't like what we say, then we're getting punished. And it's playing on those vulnerabilities that have psychological repercussions for us. And those punishment and reward tactics are leveraging change in our psyches. And that is creating new ways of thinking. We're getting hooked to schemes of rewards and punishments. And that is creating changes in us. It's changing who we are. It's changing the way our brains think. It's changing the perception of the world, and it's changing society. And it's actually causing a breakdown in society, a breakdown in friendships, a breakdown in communication. These platforms are modifying and changing society without us knowing it, without us understanding what's going on. And so who are all these really bad guys? Is there some large conspiracy theory? Is there some sort of Illuminati, some archons? Is Satan, trying to play with us all? No, the people that are asking for the adverts are normal people, people like us, me and you, that want to have a business, that want to get on with life, that want money to pay for their way, that want to send their children to school, that want to buy food and pay their bills. Those people that have small companies or people that have big companies, they pay Facebook to show their ads. And so Facebook then gets those ads and it sends it to us depending on the character of the ads and depending on the profiles that they have of us. And because Facebook is a free platform, it needs to sustain itself somehow. And the only way to sustain itself and to be free for us, the consumer, is to have advertising. One of the changes that's been caused in the human is the change from value to impulses. People don't have as strong values. What they do is they react to things on impulses, which is caused by the dopamine when you get a thumbs up reaction. This creates false popularity. People that don't have a high level of self-confidence are therefore going to keep trying to be popular by putting things onto the system in order to get those dopamine rushes. And if you think that, intelligent people aren't going to be doing this, the people from Stanford or Ivy League universities, Oxford and Cambridge, the most intelligent people in the world, they're all culpable and guilty of doing the same thing. Gambling is an addiction. It doesn't depend on intelligence. In fact, I'd probably say that a lot of very intelligent people gamble. They take gambles. I know that people that have ADD and ADHD, those people, they normally have a higher IQ than the normal population. The normal IQ of the population, I think, is about 100. There is a much higher likelihood of people with ADHD and ADD to have tendencies to become addictive to things, because some of them have obsessive personality disorders, and these disorders seem to be linked together sometimes. And the social platforms need you to be on them for as long as possible. Their aim is to hypnotize you with all of the feeds and the things that create addiction to keep you attracted there. Once in a while, maybe you post a comment, and when you post a comment, you get a dopamine rush. But in order for other people to see what you're putting up onto the social platforms, those things need to be publicized by those platforms. And so the platforms have special strategies so that you don't get a load of likes back in one go. The likes come to you more slowly, but over a period of time. If you have likes coming to you over a period of time, which is basically little dopamine hits, if you're on social media over longer periods of time, like a month or 2 months, looking at the likes that you're getting, you're more likely to reply and to put more things up than if you just get a load of hits at one time. So there's a special strategy to keep you on the social media for extended periods. And going back to the people that actually run the companies, one of them is called Mr. Parker. Parker, who I believe was the president of Facebook up until recently, I think he joined Facebook a year after Facebook opened. Parker isn't the only tech figure to express disillusionment and worry by what they helped create. Tristan Harris, a former employee of Google, has been outspoken in his criticism of how tech companies' products hijack users' minds. The whole company is channeled. The whole company is channeled to exploit human vulnerabilities. In the Guardian newspaper in the UK, the people who run Facebook and Google are good people, whose well-intentioned strategies have led to horrific unintended consequences. The problem is that there is nothing the companies can do to address the harm unless they abandon the current advertising models. You might be asking yourself, what's this got to do with magic? What's this got to do with the occult? What's this got to do with mysticism? There is magic that came out recently by Oscar something or other, I can't remember. And he developed something called chaos magic. And chaos magic goes very well with technology. I think Timothy Leary and some of the beat poets and that generation of the 70s, they meddled with chaos magic. They managed to combine chaos magic and technology together. They did some ceremonies involving computers and mice and keyboards that sort of mimicked ceremonial magic. But magic has a reputation for enchanting people and then putting them under a spell and making them do things that they wouldn't normally do. And social media is doing the same thing. It's mesmeric. It creates addiction, and through that addiction it changes who you are and changes the society in general as well. These technologies aren't attacking society, they're attacking the people that create the society. Because so many people have social media, it's very easy to make changes, large changes in society very quickly. How old is Facebook? Within 10 years of Facebook or 15 years of Facebook, it's managed to make huge social changes. These behaviors that you're manifesting, these aren't your real behaviors. These are behaviors that have been programmed into you through a mind hack which has been explicitly done from the architects in the social media firms, using algorithms that have knowledge how the brain and how human behavior works. And then they open the back of the brain and they start to make changes in the neural programming of your brain. And they make those changes through the rewards and punishment system, which is basically very much like a slot machine. And I want to talk a little bit about this false reality that we're creating with the help of the cyber world. The Great Spirit made us, and we submit ourselves to the Great Spirit. And the Great Spirit, he animated the world. Animation is to do with the word soul. In Latin, animate means soul. So an animal is a soul. The Creator animated life. Everything here is life. God, or the Great Spirit, is in everything. Everything is a part of him. He is ubiquitous in all matter. For some reason, we find it difficult to identify with creation. We have been ostracized, it seems, from creation. We can't communicate with nature anymore. We can't see nature for what it is. If you go and speak to the indigenous peoples that haven't been touched by Western culture or still have retained their culture, they have a completely different perception of reality from us. We probably had the same perception. I'm sure we actually did have the same perception before the invasion of Christianity invaded Europe and thus the Western civilization. But just to say that we think differently, and because our technology is more advanced than their technology, we are somehow right, I don't think is the truth. I think actually mysticism is a form of technology. If you go to tribes and to shamans, they have a very strong science. Their ability to manage the astral world is a lot stronger than our ability to manage technology and the astral world. In fact, you could say that if you have a good shaman, he is scientifically far more advanced than our technology. What we're doing is we're trying to make a computer that's more intelligent than us. It's much more easy for a higher intelligence to explain something to a lower intelligence. It's much more easy for us to train a dog than for a dog to train us. In fact, it's impossible for a dog to train us. And what it seems like is that we're trying to animate a computer. We're trying to bring a computer to life. We're trying to give it a soul. And we think that we can do this through artificial intelligence. If we could somehow create a computer that was more intelligent than us, perhaps it would solve all of the world's problems. We could get the computer to write an algorithm in order to program itself, in order to figure out everything that's gone wrong, and to give us a system that would work, and perhaps to control us, or some ideas for us to live by in order to better humanity. I think humanity already has the capacity to find those answers, but our brains have been subverted to work against ourselves, which means that we don't have faith in what we're doing. We can't change because the foundations that we've built our perception of the world on are faulty. We need to destroy our ideas and destroy the foundations, and then we need to have a look at where the foundations should actually be and what the correct protocol is to build those foundations, and that is going to help us build a good society. And I bet you it doesn't start with society, it starts with the individual. It starts with the individual finding harmony, because if you have a society full of harmonious people, the society will be harmonious. If you have a society full of unharmonious people, the society will be unharmonious. I don't think the solution can be found in a computer creating a system for us to live in. I think that the solution lies in humans going back to spirituality, reprogramming the mind, and finding a harmony that suits them so that they can live in peace, and that peace will be magnified throughout the society. It's much like having a load of musical instruments all playing different notes. Somehow you think that you can create an algorithm that can put in order all of these notes for them to play in harmony. It would be a lot more simple just to tune every single musical instrument to one note and then have all those instruments play that one note, and everything will be in harmony. There'll be a magnification. What we're trying to do with this computer is build our own God. We don't want to find the God within. What we want to do is we want to find a God. Religion hasn't been able to find a God for us. So now with the technology, we're going to try and build our own God that's going to tell us what to do. That's a complete giving up of power. We are completely giving away our power to something that we don't need to give our power away to. And we're being trained to give away power. Since from school, we've been trained to give away our power, trained to do what the teacher wants, trained to change classes, trained to learn things in a particular way, trained to have brains that never actually understand the subject because they're not joined, they're compartmentalized, trained with the clothes that we wear, trained when we get up, when we eat, what time we go to work, how we live, rules. We've given away all of our power. And the ultimate thing that we can do, one of the scariest things that I can think, is that we build a computer and we have faith that the computer is going to solve everything, and then we give all the power to the computer. In effect, who's controlling us? A robot's controlling us. Nothing living, nothing sentient, something dead. Why would we want something dead controlling us? We want something living to control us. We live. Let us control. Let us find ourselves, and let us then go and make a society based on life rather than death. If the computer that we build is not a god, and it happens to be a behemoth or a Satan, we're going to get a nightmare situation like Terminator. That's the reality. But I don't think it's going to be expressed like Terminator. I don't think it's going to be a physical problem where the machines take us over physically. I think it will be a mental and emotional invasion by the computers. Because everything needs to be done by stealth. Everything needs to be done silently. Everything needs to be done like a Trojan horse. We need to take the apple. We need to accept the Trojan horse. We are trying to make our environments come alive. We can't see the life in the environment. We can't see the life in the tree. So we want to create life in everything. We want to make everything smart. We want to put lights everywhere. We want to put cameras everywhere, sensors everywhere, audio everywhere. We want the house to be able to be alive so it knows what we need to eat, when we need to rest, when we get up. We need a fridge to be smart so that it tells us what we need to eat, and it orders from the supermarket without us having to go to the supermarket. We need a car that's alive that drives us to work without driving. We need a phone that's alive that does things without us asking. We are trying to create a false reality, and we're trying to bring it to life with smart technology. If animism is real, animism being that everything has a spirit and soul in it, then we want to create a false reality by creating an entire world that is smart. And therefore we are in the process of making a fake reality the main reality.